Recently, I've been doing a lot of research on earning yield on Bitcoin, all the different ways that you can have a position in Bitcoin. You can kind of see in the background, this is a new project we're working on, a guard tower. So I wanted to give you guys my top 5 suggestions on holding a position in Bitcoin in this new concept called BTCFi. You know, there's yield farming, there's just holding, there's buying low, selling high. You know, if you had some Bitcoin, being able to put it into some protocols and being able to earn a little extra yield on top of that is something that I'm interested in. You know, there is a little bit risk with that. You know, two projects that kind of came out that were offering fairly high yields on that type of idea were Celsius and FTX. And so we know how those turned out. I wanted to do this with a lot of the coins that I'm in, kind of starting with Bitcoin, going to Ethereum, going to Solana, BNB, probably Cardano. Minimum, you should have like 5% of your portfolio in Bitcoin. Recently, I was cleaning out some old accounts and I found, you know, an exchange account where I had a strategy where I wanted to hold some Bitcoin, and I basically bought a few $1,000s worth of Bitcoin and just kind of forgot about it. And now I came back to find it later, and it's, you know, it went up about, you know, 4 or 5x in price. I kind of wanted to hold that Bitcoin, but also have the ability to earn, you know, some yield on it. So I was looking at, you know, yield farming, staking options. I wanted to find like maybe the 5 best strategies for holding a position in Bitcoin. Obviously, one strategy is just, you know, stacking sats in a wallet, and that's certainly one strategy. But if you wanted to take it a little bit further and have some different options, maybe even getting a little bit of a higher yield, I think there's some interesting ways you can do that. I would say probably the most profitable one is when you start getting it more into leverage trading. So I've talked about HuntX on here before. I think it's a great protocol that allows you to hold a position in a long position, like a low leverage long position in Bitcoin. And I really like it because it uses the volume metrics on Binance. So you're not really getting a lot of those scam wicks. Now, if you're doing leverage trading, you have to pay funding fees. You're going to be paying funding fees typically on holding a long position. I think HuntX is one of the best ways to do that because it's the only leverage exchange that I know of where you're not paying those funding fees. You're paying much less in terms of fees. Short positions are going to be, you know, much different. I would probably recommend doing that maybe outside of HuntX on some other exchanges. I've left a few links in the description below if you want to check out some of those. Sometimes just holding something can be much more profitable and just kind of, you know, dealing with some of the ebbs and flows. So when you're holding a 5x position, your liquidation level is much, much lower. You could even do like a 3x or a 4x position and really lower that, and then just hold a, you know, a long position and just kind of forget about it. That's one. So my number 2 is going to be holding Bitcoin in a pair with Ethereum and holding that on PancakeSwap, because you're going to be earning Bitcoin and Ethereum by holding a position in that yield farm. Now with the version 3 on PancakeSwap, it's a little bit different than the way it was before, because you were able to pull out your liquidity tokens. You know, you got half and half. Now that's not really the case. It's the version 3, you have a little bit more of a range, and if you fall out of that range, you know, you have to rebalance it. You're going to hold more of the other tokens. So like I put some money into Dogecoin, for example, and paired that with BNB, and then Dogecoin just went parabolic and knocked me out of the range, but I made a lot of money just by having those LP tokens in that regardless, because of it basically was kind of selling essentially on the way up until I was out of range. I think Dogecoin perhaps is a little bit high right now, so I basically pulled those out, and then I took those and I went into Cardano. In terms of Bitcoin, I think Bitcoin can be really good with Ethereum. I think there's a lot of volume there. The most volume is going to be on Tether, but if you want to realize some of these gains that we're seeing right now in the market, you want to be paired with another token. So my suggestion is either PancakeSwap or maybe the BNB chain on Uniswap. So my third option is going to be a little bit simpler, just kind of a buy low, sell high strategy. So you still kind of have a position in Bitcoin. You're taking into account some of those. So essentially setting up a grid bot. Now, Binance has done some really interesting things with that. And I know that's not open to, you know, everyone, US users. You may need to look at some of the other exchanges out there. I'll put a few links to some of the exchanges I'm using. You can check those out if those are available to you. But I think having a grid strategy on Bitcoin can be another way that over time you're going to be able to produce some good yields just based on the volatility, with Bitcoin, and setting, sell orders and buy orders at different price points. So the next one I'm going to talk about, number 4, is just a native staking option that's available on Binance. There's a few other platforms that may have something similar where you can essentially stake Bitcoin for a certain term period and earn an APR percentage on that. Now, you're essentially kind of lending it out, and you can do this on Curve Finance, you can do it on some other ones, but you're kind of looking at single-digit APRs. So it's not earning you a whole lot, but it is earning you something. And I think with Binance, you have some security that, this is not going to be an exchange that's going away anytime soon, or going to have some of the problems that, we've seen with other smaller exchanges. So I see that as another good possibility. And the last one I'm going to talk about, and I haven't done as much research on this, and so this is one that I'm going to maybe look at and talk about in future videos, but SolvBTC. When I was looking at some of the larger liquidity pools, that was one that came up, and when I was doing some more research on it, I was seeing that you do have the ability to earn a higher interest rate in a number of different areas in that ecosystem. So that's one I'm just starting to get involved with, but that one looks really good based on what I'm seeing, the amount of liquidity that is in those protocols, and some of the development that is having with all these other chains. So that kind of opens up a lot of other opportunities in BTCFi. So holding a DeFi position, with Bitcoin. So yeah, so what I'm trying to do right now is I'm kind of breaking everything out on a spreadsheet. I want to have like, a 5% position on, holding in Bitcoin, and I can, kind of calculate that. So if I'm in a yield farm and Bitcoin pumps or something, and I have less Bitcoin, in that, I'm also earning based on, having a low leverage long position on Bitcoin. So it kind of makes up for it in that sense. And I can kind of track that a little bit. Maybe I do really well on, some altcoins or something, and I want to roll some money back into Bitcoin, maybe a little bit more of a safer play with that. That's kind of my mentality of kind of what I'm thinking about. And I think that's a good long-term strategy. Now, there's also a lot of things going on, like the wrapped BTC, the mirrored token on Pulse Chain is another one. Growth DeFi has their version of that, which is also kind of paired to the Pulse Chain BTC. Those are some other narratives that I think are really interesting, and I want to. And I'm holding, pretty large positions in those as well, but those aren't necessarily paired to the actual price of Bitcoin, at least not yet. So I'm kind of having those as like a separate category. So like for this, I want to have a minimum 5% of my portfolio in Bitcoin and holding that, for the long term, but still having the ability to earn some higher APRs. And that's kind of what I'm seeing as an interesting strategy. If you want to get into the top 1% of Bitcoin holders, there's some different ways of kind of looking at that. There was one metric that was basically saying you need 0.28 BTC to be a 1% holder. So if you wanted to build a position where you have that, which is about 25K, at today's prices, and that figure, the 0.28, is based on the total world population, maybe at the time 7.5 billion, and divided by, or I guess it would be 21 million Bitcoin divided by the population. That's how they come up with that number at 1%. If you were to look at the top 1% of Bitcoin holders, that figure's much higher. It's probably closer to like 15 Bitcoin. And so that might not be as realistic, with today's prices, but I think certainly getting some position, even if it's small, in Bitcoin, which has the most dominance when you're looking at the overall market. I think that's something that you should have some exposure to. I know I'm in a lot of groups where, we're into a lot of, altcoin markets, because that's really where there's a lot of action, a lot more potential for, 10x, 100x gains that you're not really going to see in the same way with Bitcoin. Like Bitcoin's not 10xing anytime soon. Maybe over the next 5 years, we might see something crazy, but it's going to take so much money to move the markets. But I do feel like you can have a kind of a safer position by holding Bitcoin in some of these strategies that I've talked about. So those are some of my thoughts. If you guys know of something that I'm not taking into consideration, by all means, share those in the chat. And like and subscribe. I'll catch you guys in the next video.